All right. Well, a little off with this one, but we made it anyway. We'll see who shows up and who wants to hang out tonight. Let a couple people filter in here. I know I said I wasn't going to make it, and I pretty much wasn't going to. But we're here. So we'll see who actually hops on. Got a couple of people over here on TikTok. Appreciate you guys taking the time out. I know this is a little different than normal. We're over here on Tuesday night instead of our regular Monday and Wednesday. We were going to schedule a live, and I had some family stuff come up as I flew back into town today. And hey, we got Myrtle Beach. So, I don't know how many people are going to show up or join or ask questions tonight, but it'll be a little bit less frantic. We'll try to get to all the questions tonight. We'll see what ends up happening and how many people hop on here, whether it's on YouTube or X or over here on TikTok. We got a couple more people joining. So anyway, we'll start off with just kind of a story, and then we'll get into some questions. We'll do Q&A. We'll hang out with you guys for a couple hours tonight. I'll be up anyway, so I figured might as well just go ahead and make it to the live. About 15 minutes late from what I should have been tonight. So anyway, I just want to start off. I listen to a lot of motivational stuff. Appreciate you, man. Thanks, Jim, for signing up for the LLC. Glad to be working with you. Hey, awesome. People are in the mastermind. Lots of good stuff. Thank you guys for the kind words. So, again, I listen to a lot of motivational stuff. I listen to a lot of David Goggins. I don't know if you guys know who he is or not. He talks about hard. And most people don't really ever go through, I'm going to say that everybody goes through hard stuff in their life. It's difficult to perform under hard circumstances. And that's different for everybody. Everybody goes through situations, whether it's a divorce or a bad partnership, or somebody dies, or you lose a limb, or somebody gets sick for an extended period of time. There's always going to be reasons and things that keep you from doing what you said you were going to do. And that's the other reason I'm here tonight is I do not like saying I'm going to do something and then not following through on that. We'd normally schedule this out and people, come and super chat and do all the fun stuff. And I love that. And I appreciate everybody. And we're consistent, right? Like, I think that's one of the reasons that a lot of people tend to trust that we're going to do a good job and want to work with us. And we've built a track record. I've built a track record of being consistent. In my mind, I have. Maybe other people may be new here. You have no idea who I am. You're listening to this for the first time. But we've been doing these for years at this point. I started off on Twitter and just doing lives every single Saturday, no matter what. Rain, shine, snow, internet, no internet. I finally got fiber at my house probably about a year ago. Was doing it off my phone for a long time. But that being said, like, you're going to have whatever circumstances you have when you start doing something. And there are going to be road bumps or roadblocks or things that come up in your life that anybody else would just quit and not do it or not show up or not perform. And the people that I've found that are the most successful are people that are able to perform when, excuse my French, but shit hits the fan. Stuff is not fun. Things go poorly. They didn't come through. Somebody else you were counting on doesn't show up. Everything's burning down around you, and you still show up and execute anyway. And those are the people that are that make it, right? So again, that's why we're here tonight. I've got a lot of not fun stuff happening in my personal life, and that's okay. But I make commitments and I stick by those commitments and we make stuff happen. irrespective of whatever those other things are that are going on in your life. So I just would challenge you, not even challenge you, like, um, if you want to be successful at the highest level, you're going to have to go through situations and do stuff and execute when things are not perfect. They're really rarely ever going to be perfect. And if you show up and grind and make things happen, irrespective of those circumstances, you can only control what you can control. And if you're able to make sure that you're executing, irrespective of whatever those other things are, you're going to have good outcomes. So thank you for the prayers. Appreciate you guys on that stuff. Appreciate you, Matt, on the super chat, brother. Again, you guys are the reason that I show up and do this on a regular basis. I make commitments to y'all, and I want to make sure that I fulfill on those. And so we're here, and we're going to run through the super chats and all the questions. The chat's probably not going to be inundated tonight again because, maybe a couple, I don't know how many people are going to show up on this one again, because it's an impromptu kind of like middle between, not normally scheduled type situation. So hopefully we can kind of pull it back. When I first started doing these, we got to everybody's question in the chat over here. And for the last little while, it's pretty much been super chats. And I just try to make sure people get answered, that pay a little bit of money. But tonight we'll probably get into more questions than I would have otherwise. So with that, if you're just hopping on here, appreciate you taking the time out. And sorry for the delay getting up here. Again, just personal stuff going on, but I'm going to power through it. We're going to make it happen for you guys anyway. So we'll start with Derek over here. He says, Jake, when XRP explodes to the upside, what's your price prediction for Sologenic? I was kind of down and out on Sologenic for a little while. When they first came on the scene, they talked about tokenizing stocks or securities. And I don't know if things were delayed with XRP and they kind of had to pivot and create things and do stuff in the meantime. But they launched the NFT marketplace, which cool. That's innovative. It's good for the XRPL. Brought some liquidity. People were able to issue NFTs on the XRPL. Great. But it definitely wasn't in alignment with their long-term vision. They never got a broker-dealer. They didn't get registered as an investment advisor. I never saw them get their transfer agent. They never applied for an ATS. There's just a lot of things that you would need to do in order to be able to facilitate trading of tokenized securities on chain. And we're just now seeing those amendments coming into, fruition on the XRPL that have been proposed for permission domains and KYC and AML and credentials. And you've also got the multi-purpose token, which allows for issuance of stocks on chain on the XRPL on the layer 1. You don't need a derivative or something else. They can be native on the XRPL. A lot of this smart contract functionality wasn't around. It didn't exist when they launched Sologenic. The token also, as it ran up, I remember looking at it when it was, I don't remember if it was 5 cents. It had to have been about 5 cents. And I had a trust line with Solo, and I don't remember if they had an airdrop or what. But I remember talking to another gentleman on Twitter, and this is like 2022, about Sologenic, and we were like, should we invest in it? Should we throw some cash at it? I didn't do it. That's one of those like ones you missed out on or gut feelings that you should have taken initiative on, and it ran up to $5. I think it was 100x from where I looked at it. So maybe it was half a penny and it ran up to 50 cents, or maybe it was 5 cents and ran up to 5. Well, we can look at the chart here. Let's pull it up because I don't want to misspeak on this one. Price XRP. Sologenic. Yeah, so yeah, it ran all the way up to $5 at one point, from 5 cents. And I missed out on that one. That would have been a hell of a way to increase my XRP bag. But I didn't do it. And then a lot of the founders sold off their tokens after the lockup period. And you saw a big crash in the price. And that happens, right? Like people want liquidity. They're investing their time and energy into a project. I don't know if it was a rug pull. I don't know if you can call it that. There's a lot of ways that you can structure the initial token offering that I think is best when the founders hold less than 20%. I think Solo had a little bit more than that. It was 20 or 30% that the founders held. And a lot of them, after the lockup period of 12 months, sold off their positions at $5 and capitalized on that, which is great for them. But then the token was down for an extended period of time, and now we're starting to see some price appreciation on it. I'm hoping they've also curated some partnerships in the last 12 months that may allow them to actually facilitate the long-term vision for what they had implied when they first opened it up. So I do think that it'll do well over the long term. They obviously have Ripple's backing and blessing, and they have brought liquidity to the network. So again, was kind of out on it for a little while because I just didn't see that they were going to fulfill on the original. Again, it goes back to me, like, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to continue to make steps toward that and make progress and explain that that's what's going on and talk about those things on a regular basis. And when I have something cool happen, I want to tell you guys, right? And so with Solo not going that direction for as long as they didn't, and now kind of actually coming back around on it, I'm really hopeful for the project. I think it may end up doing very well. But I don't know. I don't own any of it. Full transparency, we'll see if it ends up playing out the way that they said, but I am hopeful for it at this point. We got Misfits. They say Beyond Broke Mastermind members are a few minutes late, but we are here. Appreciate you guys. Yeah, again, I told Mike and all the guys that I wasn't going to do it tonight. Again, just have, personal situation that's going on. I didn't know if I would even be home for it when they asked me. And just the way that things worked out, I ended up coming back to the house and being able to get on here. So I'm here. I appreciate you guys being here, and we'll hang out, and we'll run it down for 2 hours, probably till 11:30 Central Standard Time, and then we'll wrap it up, and maybe I'll be able to go handle the other stuff I got going on. I never do say this. Boone's been nice enough to put it on here. If you wouldn't mind, smash the like button, subscribe. If you are getting value from this, it is much appreciated. Share it with somebody. It does help the algorithm. I think we're at like almost 120,000 subscribers over here on YouTube. Wow. Thank you guys so much for that. I never would have. I mean, you always have these aspirations. You know what I mean? You think when you start something, it's going to be big and you're excited about it, and then you're consistent for an extended period of time. And then when it happens, it's kind of like, it's a byproduct of the consistency and the other stuff that you have going on. I don't really, and I probably should be better about this stuff. I have this 5-10 year vision of what I want our company to look like, and all the things that kind of culminate to get there. And I just view those as kind of like stepping stones to get to the end goal. And I probably don't celebrate those enough like I should. My team reminds me of that frequently. I'll give you guys an example. So, when we put the hedge fund together, and we, started working with people to be able to generate returns on their XRP, and we did, the first capital call, and over the first 3 months, we ended up with over $100 million in the fund, and most people never even get close to that. They'll raise capital their whole lifetime and never do that much. There's other RIAs that work their entire career to get a book of 20, 30, $50 million. And I don't know, like I have these huge goals and dreams and aspirations for where I think we can go as a company. And again, none of that's possible without you guys and wanting the solutions that we're creating, the value that we're providing. And so for me, I'm just, cool, that's another stepping stone. Let's get to the next one. But my team's like, we've done something incredible here. And we've celebrated and took a little time. But the higher up the mountain you go, and as you progress, if you are type A personality, which I tend to be, you're always looking at the next mountain peak. It's never like enough. When you reach, you hit one goal or one milestone, and you kind of look around and you're excited for a little bit, and then immediately my vision's on the next thing. So I need to do better about celebrating the enjoying the journey instead of staring at the the long-term vision as much. Um, Appreciate that, Rodney. And again, appreciate you guys being here and hanging out with me and asking good questions. We got Sunny with the super chat. Thank you. They say, just want to know if you and your people are okay. I'm extremely blessed. My family's extremely blessed. I don't know that my family would want me to talk about what's going on. But like I said, everybody goes through things, and appreciate the prayers. I will be okay. Everybody will be okay. Just different things happen in life, So, we got. I'll share this. I normally don't do this. We got it running at the top here. We've got a lot of people from the mastermind in here. If you do want to be a part of the mastermind, I've been giving this some serious thought also, and the way that we structure things over there. And post price appreciation, we're going to have a lot of qualifiers on who's able to participate in that group. And so, right now it's pretty much anybody that has an allocation to digital assets that's meaningful for them, that wants to do better for them and their family, that wants financial education and business resources, and wants access to stuff that you can't get other places. We do that. We do a lot of those things. Some of those I can't talk about. We do have, a health share plan in there that allows you to get access to an insurance product for health insurance. It's not quite health insurance, it's a health share plan. If you are part of the mastermind, no other community I've ever been a part of has ever had one of those. So we do, save you some money on your insurance if you want that. We also have a way that you can borrow against your digital assets that's exclusive, specific to XRP if you are in the community. Not condoning that or advocating it for it. I'm not a financial advisor. I should probably give my disclaimer. I am not a financial advisor. Anything that I say on here are my own opinions, not the opinion of the firm or Digital Wealth Partners. And all this is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Please always work with your financial advisor, CPA, or attorney before making any financial, tax, or legal decisions. If you need those professionals and you want them to be the expert in digital assets, you can reach out to our company. We have all of them, employ many of them, and partner with a lot of them. And if you just need those people, you don't even necessarily need our services. We're happy to provide them for you. If you just want to email info@digitalfamilyoffice.io, that's info@digitalfamilyoffice.io, and we will share, those professionals with you so that you can contact them, especially if you're international. I know we get a lot of people on here that are in Australia and other jurisdictions because we do these at night. So if you need those resources in those other places in the world, we don't provide that in-house. We partner with people in those jurisdictions that are experts in digital assets to help service our clients in those jurisdictions. And then if you want to work with us on the wealth management side, and you've got over 100,000 XRP or at least $500,000 in total portfolio value, including your traditional assets, we can work with you. So again, that's info@digitalfamilyoffice.io. And if you want to be part of the mastermind, we share those resources there as well. You can just use the code BEYONDBROKE, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO like Mary Oscar gets you the first month for $2 there at beyondbroke.com in the mastermind. Evil reigns supreme. It's an interesting name. Says real life has opportunity. It also usually is neglected while we play in the money mine game. Food grows and people build. I posted on Twitter over there a quote by Sun Tzu. So I don't know if you guys have read The Art of War or not. Very interesting book. Highly recommend if you haven't read it. But he talks about, opportunity among or amidst is what he says, chaos. So, while everybody else is freaking out, and a good example of this is when the market is dumping, right? I don't know how long you've been here in crypto. Many people have been here years. Other people have been here just a few months. Maybe somebody's watching this and it's the first thing in crypto they've ever seen. But when there's blood in the streets and everybody else is freaking out, selling, most of the time that's when the opportunity is. And that's mostly the time it's hard to buy stuff. You're going to be emotional and it's difficult to execute, just like I'm talking about when there's other circumstances and everybody's like, yeah, I want to pull back to this number. And then it happens and you're like, oh, is it going to go lower? I don't know what's going to happen. And you don't buy. The people that buy, those are the ones that win out. Even if it tends to dippy dip. Even beyond that, you still bought it lower than where it was. If you liked it at this price, you probably like it at a lower price, right? If you believe in the long-term value of a stock or a cryptocurrency or any other type of investment, anytime, if you're following Ben Graham or Warren Buffett and you're looking at doing value investing, you want to invest in a fair price or a price that's lower than what you think is a fair price. That's going to win out over the long term. And obviously that's done very well for Warren. I was looking at something the other day. He had like, what was it? When he first started, $100,000 and he's turned it into, $400 billion today, as far as his net worth, which is wild. He actually, his model for his investment, or his investors early on is very similar to ours. So he took no management fee and he paid them a 6% pref. So the first 6% on the returns on the investment, he paid them before he went, 80-20 on anything above that. We do that. We do very similar stuff for the way that we've structured stuff at the RIA. We do take a small AUM fee to make sure that we can keep the lights on and deal with compliance and all the red tape and all the stuff that we have over there. But we do pay an 8% pref on the performance fees. If your total portfolio does more than 8% on any given year, you get the first 8%, and then we go 80-20 on anything over that. If you bring us your digital assets, we don't get any upside on that. So whatever appreciation is on the assets doesn't factor it in the performance fee. We do charge the AUM fee on that, but we have to make you an additional 8% beyond what your assets appreciated in order to get that performance fee, which has turned out to be really hard to calculate in the accounting. So anyway, a couple more super chats here. Appreciate you guys taking the time and for the super chats. They got, I am the key. I like the name. They say, Jake, my guy, what do you think the timeline is on derivatives and your thoughts on Flare? Thanks for all that you do. It's good questions. I think derivatives could take all the way until 2030, but I do think it's likely that things will happen sooner than that. It just depends on regulation and the adoption of this asset class and the tokenization of different things. We're still super early in that. So you need, digital identity. You need a lot of the things that are unfolding right now with credentials, the ability to quantify accredited investors on chain or qualified participants or, sophisticated investors, depending on the jurisdiction. There's a lot of different rules when it comes to who can invest in what, lockup periods, and a lot of things. So a lot of that smart contract stuff is going to have to be built out. Many people have created open source standards. Zonix has done a good job. They have an EVM standard that allows for interoperability across multiple jurisdictions when it comes to private investment for on-chain stuff. Sanjeev's cool, like that guy. I don't know that they have, a fully completed product yet, but I know that they're working toward it. I know Ripple made an investment there. And so, I believe in them. I believe in a lot of the stuff that Ripple's invested in over the years. And then when it comes to derivatives, that's where the big money is. That's where we're going to see the $10,000 XRP or $50,000 XRP or $100,000 XRP. These numbers and the market cap and all of that seems like a fantasy to most people. But in order to be able to facilitate the settlement of that market and account for all of those transactions, there's a ton of volume on derivatives every single day. And so if you don't know what like a derivative is, so you have an underlying asset, paper issued on top of that would be a derivative. And then, like we talked with a group the other day that's doing looping. So imagine you were a bank, you issue stable coins. Those stable coins are backed by treasuries. So that's the actual asset that's being represented on chain is these treasuries. They're getting the yield off the treasuries. They then take those stable coins and they go put them in something else. They leverage that representation of value that's a derivative of the first one in something else. Let's say they put it in a liquid staking pool. Okay. So now they have the treasuries, they've got the stable coin. They take the stable coin, they put it in a liquidity pool or some other way that's generating yield, where they get a liquid, a receipt for their participation in that. And then they take that value and they go put it in something else to generate more yield. The tokenization of these asset classes is actually going to expand the derivatives market. The derivatives market today is somewhere between 400 trillion and $4 quadrillion. And if you could account for all of it and you could actually see the risk that you're taking, and you could layer that risk appropriately so that you understood your exposure to whatever it was that you were investing in, I think that you'll see banks take more risk, which I don't know if that's the ideal outcome that we want from this. I think you'll get some regulation around it also, but maybe you can only rehypothecate the same collateral 5 or 6 times instead of as many times as they're doing it today. The other thing is the underlying treasuries that they use to back derivatives today are sometimes loaned to somebody else 10 times over, who also uses that as their collateral for derivatives. If you had the issuance of other tier 1 assets in the banking system, along with gold, which is now a tier 1 asset, if it's tokenized, you can absolutely take that representation of value and go liquid stake it and do other stuff with it. And then in addition to that, if XRP gets a designation as tier 1 collateral, it could also be backing for derivatives, which also causes a higher demand for XRP and price appreciation. So anyway, I know I'm like going down this rabbit hole with you. These are things that I pontificate about in my spare time. But I think that, you could see a 10 to 20 quadrillion dollar market for derivatives. 2030 and beyond. And if that's the case, you absolutely need a $50,000 to $100,000 XRP to be able to settle and quantify the risk and do all of the things for those transactions. So very high price there. And then Flare is very interesting. Had Hugo on the show. If you guys haven't seen that podcast, I'd highly recommend going and checking that out here on the channel. Super sharp guy. Again, their intended purpose for Flare early on was to be able to mint F assets. They launched, Songbird, which is similar to Kusama. It's their testnet or beta environment where they roll out features and fix all the bugs before they roll it to the main net, which is Flare. I really haven't seen S assets really take off. We've got the threat of F assets coming to market in the near future, where you'd be able to put your XRP up as collateral and mint FXRP, which would be a derivative of your XRP, that you could then, stake somehow or swap for the stable coin that's issued against that on Flare's network and put that into the protocol, which is basically exactly what I'm talking about with some of these other derivatives for the stable coins. The way that they'd be issuing the stablecoin on Flare is actually something that I've thought about, where you hedge the volatility in XRP via futures. Now, if it's still extremely volatile, it's going to be difficult to do. But if you did have a high-priced XRP that was stable-ish, it's still going to have some fluctuations. You'd have a much easier time pairing that with futures to be able to mint a stablecoin against XRP. Now, what is that stablecoin denominated in? I don't know. Because if it's denominated in US dollars, it's going to have to be backed by treasuries. So I think you're going to see the rollout of some very interesting stablecoins over time that there'll have to be additional regulation around. It's just dollar denominated stablecoins. The Genius Act approaches. It doesn't, if it's denominated in another currency, you'd be subject to the regulation in whatever jurisdiction that currency is sovereign or issued by. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with that XRP stablecoin that they issue on Flare's network. Again, if it's dollar denominated, I would think it would have to be treasury backed, and he wouldn't be able to do that. So I want all of it to happen. I'm a big proponent of DeFi. I'm excited about DeFi. I just think there's a lot of risks with smart contracts currently. You now have people underwriting that risk and issuing insurance against those smart contracts like Nexus. There's a few other people that are doing that. As we grow as a company, that's something that we will look at, insuring our own products and stuff. We're not there yet. If you want a fun rabbit hole, you can go look up captive insurance. This is what a lot of family offices do, and other very wealthy people. They basically self-insure through captive insurance. They'll structure that offshore in Bermuda or the Caymans, in a better jurisdiction for those types of products versus here in the U.S. So looking at all that, we want to bring TradFi and all those things to digital assets and structure things in a creative way to be able to bridge that gap and facilitate a lot of this stuff with digital assets. But I like pontificating on this stuff, but we'll see how it actually turns out. We got Jay Blazer. What's up, man? He says, legend. Appreciate that, man. He says, set up the LLC. So I'm talking about, my man. Thank Crystal for helping me. Absolutely. Looking forward to working with DWP and for appreciation. Thanks for the Beyond Broke Mastermind and the lives. Absolutely, dude. Thank you so much for the support and working with us and trusting us to be a client. Look forward to working with you and helping your family preserve and grow your wealth over the long term. Denise says, you are an example of a leader that I aspire to and have practiced all my life. Communication, presence, and attitude. God bless you and your family. Thank you so much, Denise. So I'll talk about this. I don't know who you want to be, whoever. There's a lot of people watching. Got 2,000 people over here on YouTube and many people on X, and I'm sure over here on TikTok also. You'll set big goals for yourself. Hopefully you do. And you stretch for those. And for me, I was not the person that could accomplish those things when I first started a lot of this stuff. And I really thought through, what would that person do? Like, how would they act? How would they show up? Who would that person need to be in order to, a lot of people talk about attracting certain things, but you can position it that way, but I think you need to become a certain person in order to accomplish certain things. And so, I spend a lot of my free time driving or flying or whatever, reading different books, autobiographies, biographies on different leaders and people that have been successful. And then I try to glean those little nuggets out of those books or podcasts or whatever else I'm listening to and apply that to my own life. Again, I tried to show up the way that I need to show up in order to accomplish the things that I want to build and become and do to support my family. So thank you for the kind words and the support. We got Wake the Fork Up with the super chat. Appreciate you. He says, prayers for you, legend. You got this, brother. Can you update us on R3, Solana, and XRP again? Yeah. So a lot of people, are excited or not excited, however you want to look at it, about the partnership between R3 and Solana. So Solana is a publicly permission. It's not a permission network. It's a public network that you can settle value through. That has actually shored up a lot of its stuff in the last 2 years when it comes to their uptime. They had some stuff prior to that where their network was down for extended periods of time. If you wanted to test things with more liquidity before you rolled it over to what you knew your final solution was, you would use whatever was the best option at the time, right? So Corda has these private permissioned ecosystems. If they want to settle or transact value between them, and it's just small transactions, there's enough liquidity in Solana to start trialing that. And it's fast enough and cheap enough that some banks may want to participate there. And so I think that's what that is. Like I talked about Songbird being the test net for Flare. I think Solana is kind of the test net for Corda before they move to their final solution, which I'm very confident will be XRP. And there'll be a portion of that moves through XDC as well. But it's going to be whatever has the most liquidity and is the cheapest for those counterparties or siloed institutions that are built on Corda to transact with one another. So for the meantime, great for Solana, but I do think over the long term, it's going to migrate to where it was intended. We got T-Mas. They say, Jake, just got my LLC set up. Awesome, dude. With y'all, let's go. Thanks for all that you do. Hope that all is well and can't wait to work with you post price appreciation. Awesome, man. Thank you for working with us. If you guys want to set up an LLC to be able to manage your digital assets and do it the right way, at least what I think is the right way, right? I'm not a attorney. I've just talked to a lot of attorneys and worked with family offices. And so I see the way that they operate. And so we've extended that to people that are holding their digital assets personally. If you want creditor protection, if you want anonymity, if you want to be able to season in bank accounts and in anticipation of taking large profits from your investments in digital assets and also using them to generate pretty significant returns to be able to pay yourself and support your family over the long term, setting up a corporation now makes a lot of sense if you have at least somewhere between $50,000 and $80,000 in current portfolio value. If you have less than that, I would say the cost of benefit, like I would just continue. If it's $2,000, that's what we charge end to end for this LLC that we set up for people in Wyoming that gives you all these benefits, corporate veil, maintenance, and everything else. $2,000 invested in crypto might actually go further than setting up the LLC if your portfolio is less than that amount. So we'll do it for anybody. We don't say how much do you have or like qualify you for it. But again, I just want to be transparent. I don't think that you're going to get the best benefit until you reach those levels of investment. So that's where we like to work with people and what we see most often. If you do want to work with us to do that, again, don't have to use us. Just educate yourself. Make sure you don't have a taxable event. You're setting up a family limited partnership, or you're doing a single member LLC or a disregarded entity. All those are ways that you can move your assets into an LLC without triggering a taxable event. You might also want to trigger a taxable event on the contribution. So we have had situations where people bought XRP at 350. If you bought it at 350 and you're down from your initial investment and you do want to lock in some of those capital losses, you might set up the LLC as a partnership or something else and want the taxable event to be able to record that. That's a nuanced situation. That's not most people. Most people bought the majority of these assets in the 30 to 50 cent range prior to November last year. And for those people, highly recommend not triggering a taxable event and doing it the right way. A lot of people have approached us recently about partnerships. They're like, hey, me and my buddy between us, or me and my 3 friends, we have enough to be able to custody with you. I would love to do that type of stuff, but one, that's going to trigger a taxable event when you guys set up a partnership. And 2, you guys get pissed off at one another later on for whatever reason, and you want to disband everything. It becomes problematic to unwind stuff unless you have very clear stuff in the operating agreement. The operating agreement that we provide people is specifically for a single member LLC. We have done some family limited partnerships. We're working on drafting an operating agreement for that. That's a standard template that we provide people. Again, you can add additional provisions to this stuff. We're not providing legal advice. We, suggest that you seek legal counsel and verify all this stuff before you sign it. But we give people a really good, robust starting place that actually has the provisions for digital assets and all the security and airdrops and staking and all the other stuff that you would want in an operating agreement that manage digital assets. And the way that we structure this is not a trading LLC, which many CPAs will encourage you to set up, because you're not going to be able to get the long-term capital gains if you structure it that way. You want to structure it as a holding company. It's also going to make it much easier for you to get a bank account. So the NAICS code, you're not going to get this registered with the IRS or even in your operating agreement anywhere with the state. When the bank asks you, or whoever you're working with asks you what type of business you're in, you would want to, you want to do it as a holding company. The NAICS code is 55111-2 or 55111-4. So when the bank asks you what kind of business it is, you just give them that, and they're like, oh, it's a holding company that manages assets. Cool. So they're not going to give you hell about managing digital assets. And we also walk you through how to put the assets in there the right way and do all that. So again, and most attorneys, again, are going to have no clue on this stuff. So if you can, find somebody that you trust to work with, or you can work with us. If you want to work with us, the code to get everything for $2,000 is 50 off 50 OFFDAG LLC. And you can go to digitalfamilyoffice.io and put that code in on that service, and you get everything end to end that you're ever going to need for the LLC for $2,000. We got Chomp with spaces between the name. Interesting. They say Jake the Rake, my buddy, flexed his BTC bags today. Painful. Be real. If the ETFs get the green light, is there any chance XRP doesn't launch, or will the Japan carry trade finally wake up the beast? I wait. We're going to get these ETFs. I mean, if you look at Polymarket, they're at like a 94% chance that these get filed and approved. There's a ton of S1s. This guy keeps asking about XVM over here. I'll get to that, man. I do think that we're going to get the ETFs. I think it's a foregone conclusion on that. And I also think it's a foregone conclusion on the reverse carry trade. They want it to play out. Japan needs that to play out so that they can continue to grow their economy and expand and increase their GDP and raise their bond yields and have a prosperous economy, and not be subject to the US and our constraints and the treasuries and all the stuff. So this is their way out of that. They've already put everything in place. We got the stablecoin regulation. We had the SEC notified the other day by NASDAQ that they want to tokenize stocks and get that approved. And so, that was kind of something that was lingering out there that I hadn't really considered, but I think does need to be in place before we actually see, a lot of the rollout and the implementation of this stuff. So that's one more thing off the checklist over there for the domino theory to actually unfold. I do think we're going to be a little bit before the stocks themselves actually get tokenized. So this is something I talked about in the mastermind the other day. Settlement of the transactions between the clearinghouses and the brokers. They can settle via digital asset as of May 28th last year, 2024. If there's enough liquidity and regulation around digital asset to do that, they'd use Project Ion, which is developed in correlation with R3 and the DTCC, running in tandem between all of those counterparties right now. I think there's going to be a situation where they need de-risk from huge unrealized losses, and that's when they're going to implement that. So yeah, people might look great today with their BTC bags. I think, and I told my Uber driver this yesterday in DC, I think you could see Bitcoin pull all the way back to 20,000 on this next bear market, which is going to be, very much against the grain. That would be a huge drawdown, maybe an 80% drawdown from where it is today, which, 70-75% drawdown is kind of what we've seen over the last couple cycles. So that's actually not out of line. And it does come back and touch that all-time high from, 2020 was 2017 when it reached 20 grand. So, last cycle, we pulled all the way back down to about that much. And then, we had the ETFs and everything kind of there. But I think, the valuation of Bitcoin has been inflated by the ETFs. And I think it'll also be exacerbated on the way down as people, sell off the ETFs in droves when there is a significant downturn in the market or something else happens with Bitcoin. So again, market dynamics are changing. I don't think that we're going to see the same cyclical pattern that we've seen in the past. I've talked about that extensively, put out, a Substack on it. We have a newsletter that goes out. I don't know if you guys are subscribed to that or not. We've got a lot of subscribers to that. High net worth individuals, family offices, VCs, a lot of real estate people. I have almost 550,000 people subscribe to our Substack. So if you haven't, go over there and check that out. You get a newsletter. It's not quite weekly, but when we have something of substance, we put it out for people. Try not to bombard people with just garbage. We want to make sure that it's good quality stuff that we put out over there. Brian with the super chat, he says, wishing you and your family the best. Thank you for that, Brian. Appreciate all the prayers and everything that's going on. A lot of people showed up late. And I showed up late too. So, nothing wrong with that. But I was, I do have some things going on personally, but we're still here making it happen for you guys. We got Beyond Blessed. Love the name, man. He says, lifting you and your family up to your father, cast your cares for him, he cares for you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Lots of praying for sure. Over here, this gentleman asked about XVM, and I told him I would answer it. So I did a little bit of research into that the other day, but I really didn't take the time to understand it at scale. Volt, I think, is what it is. Let me look here. Look, there's a lot of stuff out there that people launch that get liquidity behind it. Could it be something? Sure. I know, like, people want to find the next thing, and XRP is appreciated at this point, and they're like, okay, well, and this is the same way I did Bitcoin. Okay, so I didn't buy a whole lot of Bitcoin. I should have bought more. In 2020, it was like $4,000 when I looked at Bitcoin. It was actually a little bit more than that. It was like 4,500, and I was like, missed the boat on that one. And I looked at all the altcoins, and I did well. I invested in VeChain and XDC and Quant and Theta and Cardano and XLM and XRP, other stuff as well. I hit a really good lick on some of those, and so it never hurts to be diversified. Especially, so Warren Buffett talks about diversification is a hedge against ignorance. If you aren't absolutely sure on anything, it makes sense to diversify in an asset class. And also, on the other side of price appreciation, as you manage your wealth, you're going to ideally take a very different approach versus being very siloed. So I talk about wealth kind of like a tree. So you have the trunk or the core of what your investment was, and you water it. It's a seed that you plant, and it grows big and tall. And the core investment that you have tends to be where you stay with the majority of your portfolio. Most of the family offices we work with, if they made their money in real estate, a lot of their money's in real estate. If they made their money in tech businesses or whatever else it was, a lot of their money's in that because they understand that. And then they'll diversify, 50%, 60% of their portfolio into other asset classes. So I think that's going to be very similar for a lot of people in digital assets. You probably understand this lane better than you do others. And you can probably pick the winners better than other people. And that's a strategic advantage or an edge that you have over other people. And I would continue to double down on that post-price appreciation, but I wouldn't necessarily keep all my eggs in one basket unless it becomes a tier one asset. And that's the reason I'm in XRP as deep as I am, is I do think that it'll end up being riskless to hold XRP over the long term, and you'll be able to borrow against it at a very low interest rate and take that capital and put it to work in other opportunities that generate significant returns. So that's my thesis. You guys do you. But a lot of these other digital assets, we're going to see what's on the other side of, I think that there's going to be a catastrophic event that whittles it down to like, 1% of what currently exists in crypto, probably half of a percent or even less, maybe close to 100 protocols that are around after Tether has whatever happens to it. And on the other side of that, I think that taking positions in some of these other assets makes a lot of sense, especially if you understand them in depth. So I need to do more research on Volt before I could give you a full yes, no, maybe I'll do a video on it. We have enough people requesting it. So, I did one on Stronghold. I did one on Velo. We've done one on Axelar. We had Wormhole on here. There's a lot of other opportunities out there. Which one has the highest ROI? I think I'm in the one. But that's again just one man's opinion. I'm just some guy on YouTube. So Bill Clements says, anyway, XRP to be taken if we don't have an LLC. So this is something that I've thought about for a long time. I don't think it would be taken from you. I just think it would be more difficult for you to transact over the long term, and especially with anonymity. If you're participating in different stuff on chain, zero knowledge proofs and other things on the XRPL will be available. But if you are investing in a fund or publicly traded equities, and you're holding, more than a certain percentage in any given thing, if you're holding more than 10% of the stock, you have to disclose, right, publicly, like Warren Buffett, all of the corporate raiders in the 80s. And if you're doing that through a corporation that nobody knows you own, you just get a lot better situation on that. And you can also be like, yeah, I work for this company. They did really good. They have a bunch of money. I don't know the owner, but they pay me really well and I do a good job. Stuff like that, so I think that it could be beneficial, especially if the wallet addresses do end up having to be registered with somebody over the long term. And if XRP is adopted at scale the way that I think it's going to be, there's a potential that the wallet addresses themselves will have to be registered with some type of institution or enterprise, because that's the application that they're going to be taking on, right? So if there's privately held wallets or individuals holding these things and you have to register that you own that wallet on a public blockchain, probably drawing unnecessary attention. So I don't know that that exactly will happen, but I would rather mitigate that risk than run the risk of it and be in a position later on that's a problem. You know what I mean? So just a good practice. And again, I don't want to fearmonger people. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to empower people and give people options. So if you want to hold it in your personal name, more power to you. I don't know what the end outcome will be. It may be fine, but I do think that the LLC provides you creditor protection, anonymity, and the ability to get the full tax code to be able to offset income or taxes that you're not going to get in your personal name. Lori, they say, any thoughts on using CoinTracker to help your taxes? I think it's great. I don't know if you have a CPA in rural Wyoming with Crypto Savvy. So we have CPAs all over the US that we work with. We probably have more CPAs that we work with than anything else actually at Digital Ascension Group. I can't think of any that are in Wyoming specifically, but you would think with them being as progressive as they are in digital assets, you would easily find somebody there in Wyoming that would be willing to help you. I could probably ask Caitlin Long, or, we talk to another family office there that I won't mention whose it is the other day, but I could probably ask them who they use. They also may just employ somebody when you're that large. You want to pull them under your wing and keep them. But yeah, we have plenty of people. And again, if you need resources to manage your digital assets effectively for taxes or estate planning or tax attorneys or wealth management, all you got to do is email info@digitalfamilyoffice.io, and happy to provide those resources for you guys. We got Todd. What's up, Todd? He says, Jake, thank you for your dedication. Good mental perspective. Blessings to you. Thank you, brother. Appreciate that. Again, a lot of things will happen in your life. You just have to show up anyway. And again, I listen to a lot of motivational stuff, Jim Rohn and many other people. And one of the things that keeps reoccurring for people that have been successful is just showing up is like 80 to 90% of the battle. So if you make a commitment and imagine you wanted to get fit. If you drive to the gym, you're probably going to get out of the car and go to the gym. You know what I mean? If you just show up and get in the building, whether you feel like it or not, or outside circumstances, are conducive for that, you're going to be successful. You're going to be able to execute. So I'm here and we are making it happen. We got Wayne. What's up, Wayne? He says, is it possible to continue to borrow against XRP at Anchorage? The interest rate's 15%, so it seems like it's not something you could continue to do year after year due to the cost of the interest. Also, when will you custody HVAR? Good questions. So as long as the appreciation of the asset is greater than the interest rate, you're making a good choice. People have done this with real estate for a long time. Obviously, interest rates on real estate have been much lower, right? But if let's say you took out a HELOC against your house in 2019, and you took that money and you bought another property with it, or put it to work somewhere else, or lived your lifestyle, and your property in 2020 went 2 or 3x. Now you have even more equity that you can pull out and you can refinance that loan. So as long as you're able to make the interest payments, no matter what the interest is, as long as the appreciation of the underlying asset outweighs the interest rate, you're going to do just fine. Now, where you get into a problem is when the interest rate is much higher than what you got for appreciation, or you didn't put that money to work somewhere that generated interest beyond what the other one was. And so I would, you just need to make good choices, work with a financial advisor, somebody that can help you with that stuff. Digital Wealth Partners, obviously we advise people on that. Most of the time I don't see our advisors, letting people or advising people to borrow more than 20 or 30% LTV. But everybody does their own thing. You can borrow up to 45% LTV against your XRP today at the interest rate that you mentioned there. Again, not condoning it, not recommending it, but it is a possibility. And if you're in the mastermind, you can also partake in the same thing. Digital Wealth Partners people have to go through Digital Wealth Partners, but if you are in the mastermind, you do get access to that as well. And if you want, to learn more about that, you want to check out the mastermind, just go to beyondbroke.com and use the code BeyondBroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO gets you your first month for $2 there in social or Carbon One. And then HBAR, weeks, not months. That's all I can say. That's what my team told me on HBAR. We got Courtney. She says, hey, or hi. I don't meet the minimum for DWP. I will after price appreciation. What is your rec for institutional custody providers before then? Can I use the same one you use? So unfortunately, Anchorage will not work with individuals. We are the conduit for people to get access to institutional custody at Anchorage. We'll continue to put together regulated products and conduit for people to get access to stuff post-price appreciation that you wouldn't have access to otherwise. We've done the same thing with the hedge fund. Normally you'd have to have $25 or $30 million just to approach the people that we work with to be able to generate returns as sub-advisors in our fund. And we break that down to as little as $50,000 worth of investment in XRP to be able to participate. So, democratizing access to stuff is the name of the game. That's what we're trying to do. Unfortunately, there are still constraints and things that prohibit, certain levels. If I could do it, I would just open it up to everybody. But unfortunately, we don't have that luxury. So there are a couple other people that custody via Fireblocks or Copper. Caleb and Brown is one of those. They do have some insurance on your assets there, but they are not an FBO account. They do own the assets. You are a creditor of Caleb and Brown. So if something happened to them, you're not bankruptcy remote. They do have segregated accounts, however, and they do have a full audit that they run. So they are much better than most, but they still don't meet my level of standards for institutional custody. But that's not defined. Like, nobody actually has a definition for institutional custody. I put out a whole video on my standards personally for institutional custody and why we use Anchorage over anybody else. And unfortunately, they are the only federally chartered bank here in the U.S. that provides that to anyone. And we are, again, the conduit for the average Joe, quote unquote, high net worth individual to be able to get access to it. We got Spinny B. They say, Jake, can you explain how money would flow from BTC and ETH to XRP? I don't understand how that scenario would work. Thanks so much for everything. So through the ETFs, my man, or lady, I don't know if Spinny is a man or a woman, so I'm going to say general. I'm going to say stay gender neutral on that and use those acronyms. Through the ETFs, so you would sell off large portions of those ETFs and you would buy the XRP ETFs and you would see a large migration that way. I think that that's what's going to happen to be able to roll liquidity from both of those tokens into XRP. You've already seen that. You normally see this happen on exchanges. So when Bitcoin dominance falls, you normally get a rise. Litecoin tends to be the first runner for those in Ethereum Classic. And then you'll see a rotation into other altcoins. XRP is usually the last one to go. I don't know that that's going to be the case this time, because I do think the rotation is going to happen through those ETFs, because that's where the majority of the liquidity came into both of those tokens to get them to the prices they are now. You also have these treasury companies, right, that could be liquidating assets depending on the situation that transpires and what price levels things go to. MicroStrategy becomes insolvent or upside down below $72,000 Bitcoin. Like I just mentioned, I think Bitcoin could go to 20,000 if it stayed there for an extended period of time. Their whole business model blows up. Does that happen? That's yet to be seen. They've been very successful. They're in the black, like $6 billion right now, doing very well with their position and their convertible notes and the other structured products they have around Bitcoin and MSTR. So, Tom Lee's doing the same thing with Ethereum, with BMNR, and that treasury company. You've got other treasury companies that have been formed for BNB. DATs, or digital asset treasury companies, are all the rage. I think that you're going to continue to see more and more of those come up through pretty interesting SPACs or pipes or different things at the market, where companies on the NASDAQ that are underperforming are going to roll these things in so that they can see a huge revaluation on their shares. But those are the mechanisms, these publicly traded equities and products that have been created on top of these digital assets, I think is where you're going to see the rotation from Bitcoin and ETH into XRP. You also got Michael Arrington doing a SPAC with his fund for a publicly traded company, where that'll be a treasury company for XRP, which I think will be really cool. We saw that announcement not too long ago as well. We've got XRP Guy says, Jake, my man, the legend. What's up, dude? You are so appreciated. We love you. Also, Living Legacy Million Drops. Max is cool too. Max is awesome. I'm here for the long haul, brother. Prayers to you and your family. Beyond Broke Mastermind, family for life. Thank you, man. Well, that's that's the way I feel about you guys. Like, y'all are my other family. It's rare to find the culture and the good people that we have there in the mastermind, and we kind of repel the people that we don't want, which I'm happy about. People that are egotistical or gluttonous or negative tend to work themselves out and not enjoy the community, which cool. I'm good with that. We want a community of people that want to help and uplift other people, that with a positive mindset, celebrate each other's victories, and just really blessed and grateful to have the community that we do. So thank you for being a part of it, and thank you for the kind words. We got Angus. He says, thoughts on NASDAQ tokenization news? Huge. I think it's underwhelming, the response that was around that. I think that it is a much bigger deal than people realize. Gary Vee does like underrated, overrated. I think that one's way underrated. I think that's a much bigger news than people really understand. We got TV for XRP. They say, hey, Jake, a diversity reveals true character. Adversity reveals true character. That's when we show who we really are. Thanks for your continued commitment to the community. Absolutely. Again, like I said, lots of things aren't going to be perfect in your life, and you have to show up and execute anyway. When you make commitments to other people, you stand by those, and that's something I live by, and I try to make good on. Sometimes I do have constraints where I'm not able to be here for whatever reason, but if there is a possibility, I do make it happen. We got Raza. They say, I'm new to the mastermind. I'm in my second month. I live in New York with 50K XRP. Don't tell people what you got, Raza. And 30K other assets. Unsure what steps to take. Can I use a Wyoming LLC in New York? You would benefit greatly from a Wyoming LLC in New York. So because of the bit license and the stuff that goes on there, if you are using a Wyoming entity, you can use that and set up, accounts on exchanges and be able to trade much more freely than you would otherwise if you were, using your personal information. They're out of New York. Many exchanges do require a look through to the beneficial owners, and you would want to use your registered agent's address when applying for stuff. If they're going to ask for your license, they're probably still going to need a BIT license in order to conduct business with you. But you're going to have much more liberty, tongue-tied, liberty using a Wyoming LLC if you are there in New York. And we've set up a Wyoming LLC for lots of people in New York. Mark, when the Ripple Bank gets approved, will it create XRP scarcity because they will need most of it for the escrow as collateral in their vault? What's your thoughts? So they partnered with BNY. This is interesting to me. So they filed for this banking license to be an OCC federally chartered bank, but they're actually using BNY for their treasury, for the management of ROUSD and their XRP. Well, I say that the ROUSD, I don't know that the XRP will be managed through BNY. They do have the capability. They're still very slow to move. We talked to them at SALT, and we've had some conversations with them since then. They're more focused on Bitcoin and ETH in the short term. But I do think you'll see other large institutions and custodians like BNY that will custody XRP over the long term. But again, they're not going to be doing that for individuals. You're going to need to be, an institution yourself. And that's the other benefit of setting up an LLC. Over the long term, we do a lot of stuff where we're able to get advantageous prices and costs for people. And because we're, an advisor, we're highly regulated. We come with a lot of credentials and authority, and we're able to participate in things that an individual or somebody even that just had 25 million or $30 million wouldn't be able to get access to. So, over the long term, I think it'll be a huge benefit to work with DWP. And in addition to that, we want to continue to open up accounts across multiple custodians. We love Anchorage. They're fantastic, but they are a central point of risk for us. And so, we want to have adjacent opportunities and partnerships to be able to facilitate different things. And BNY is on that list of people that we would like to work with eventually. So Ripple also would be on that list. I don't know that that's going to be possible. When we were at Standard Custody, which had a BIT license and is a trust bank, and Ripple bought it, we actually had all of our accounts there for our clients at the time before we had a registered investment advisor. And they told me, nope, we don't want this type of business. Please move your clients' assets and take them somewhere else. That's when we moved everything to Anchorage. So I know a lot of people are hopeful. They're like, yeah, Ripple's going to custody my XRP and give me yield. I think it's highly improbable that's going to happen. And I would be very surprised if that's actually how that works out. So I think you're going to need a partner to get access to that. And we will explore it as things progress here. But to your original question about the XRP and the scarcity, I don't think that that's what's going to cause the scarcity, but I do think that they will use the XRP to continue to conduct their business and execute on their mission. We got Miss Manning. They say, I'm old enough to be your mother. So I'm telling you to take care of yourself. We all care about you, and you have an awesome team. Thank you so much for that. I do take care of myself, but I'm also young, and if I can burn it at both ends for a little while and take 5 years out of my life, hopefully not off my life, but of my life, and set my, our businesses and my family and my friends and our community up for as much success as I can, I'm going to run really hard till I'm 40. And then maybe we'll ease off the gas a little bit. It's going to be hard for me, but I've talked about this before on here, but like, you only get so many opportunities in life. And I am not going to ever look back at this one and think, well, what if I had worked a little bit harder or done a little bit more? I'm going to give it all I've got all the time, as long as I can. And that does come with other costs, which you mentioned there. And, I got to walk that balance of things. I do take time for myself. I try to every day and at least go for, a 30 or 45-minute walk in the mornings before everything gets hectic. And I do try to spend time with my family as much as I can, try to involve them as much as I can. But I also want to set an example for my son to where he sees, like my dad. I remember being young and wishing I had more time with him. But I also understand why he did what he did. He was gone before I got up, and he would come home after dinner. Sometimes he did never. There was a lot of times when he didn't make dinner. He would come home very late, and because of that, we were able to afford a lot of stuff. Like I didn't grow up wealthy, but I didn't grow up lacking or wanting things, and it was because my dad worked his ass off um, to provide. And so part of me feels like as a man, it's part of your job. And so if it's 12, 14, 6, like today's a 16-hour day for me, that's just what I signed up for. And I'm good with that. And again, still got to do that even if you got other stuff going on. So, and I really do appreciate the kind words and that you guys care. And it means a lot. But I do want, to make sure that I'm executing and doing everything that I can while I can. We got PNW. He says, wife and I bought the LLC. Thank you so much for what you and your team do. Mr. Legend, appreciate that, man. We want people to be in the best position possible to take advantage of this price appreciation and set things up for their family and multiple generations. This is literally, like some people say this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. I don't think so. I think this is like a once in 1,000-year opportunity that people are going to get to be able to participate in something, to have this type of return and have access to something before the big boys do. On that, people have asked me, and they're like, well, why would they let retail? Look, they needed a way to get liquidity into XRP to be able to trial and test this network publicly before they could move the institutions over to it. And so really the only way to do that was to involve retail and get enough liquidity into the token where they could test it. And we benefit by proxy. It's not like, maybe they wanted to help some people out, but at the end of the day, I truly believe this is just part of what they had to do in order to accomplish their given mission. And we get access just, I don't want to say by accident, but kind of. So really blessed for that. And again, whatever we can do to be able to help you guys make sure that it's, I don't want to say squandered. Unfortunately, most lottery winners go bankrupt within 3 to 5 years. And most lottery winners are W-2 people. They've never had a business before. They've never managed large amounts of money before. They didn't even know that they were going to come into the money. I think a lot of people are going to be caught off guard by how much money they come into and how wealthy they are going to become in a very short period of time with this. And if we can just at least get people looking at stuff and educating themselves and surrounding themselves with the right people before this happens, they have a much, much higher percentage chance of making it versus, a lottery winner. And if we can help one person, 10 people, 100 people, 1,000 people, 10,000 people that own XRP from making those mistakes and putting themselves in a bad position after coming into such a benefit and a blessing, that's what we're here to do. So thank you. We got James. What's up, James? He says, thank you for what you do. You're the reason that I bought into crypto. I'm in the mastermind. Keep trucking. Thank you, brother. Appreciate that. Yeah, I get a lot of fulfillment from this. I wake up every day excited for what I do. And there's not a whole lot of people that get to live that experience, right? Like there's a lot of people on here, I'm sure, that you work at your job because it's a job and you pay the bills and it's okay. But to really have a passion and be fulfilled by what you do every single day, I couldn't ask for more. Super blessed to be in a position to be able to provide value and help people in the way that we are. And I want that for everybody. I want people to be able to step away from whatever's ailing you, things that you don't enjoy, and be able to live your life on your terms and go after whatever passions fulfill you. Most of the time that's giving back in some capacity. A lot of people have philanthropic interest. And I view what we do as the conduit or the foundation or the channel through which a lot of people are going to be able to accomplish those things. And that's what I feel like, was put on my heart to do and help people. My name is Jacob. I go by Jake, obviously, but means to hold the heel or supplant. And so basically, like, build support, help other people, lift other people up is what I believe I was put here to do. Mighty Mouse, thank you, man. Thank you so much for the super chat. He said, I am going through a bad spell. I lost my dad last week. I'm sorry to hear that, man. I'm dealing with all that goes along with the loss of a parent. I got some very kind words from Future during a chat with him. I'm glad for that. He said, that's one thing about the community is we all got each other's back and we support each other. I 100% agree. And Future's good people. He, I won't talk about his personal stuff, but he would know. And he's always there to help people. A lot of our moderators are fantastic people. They're uplifting. They're good to lean on when things go bad. And so, very sorry to hear about your loss. I'll keep you in my prayers also. And yeah, you can control what you can control. Hopefully your dad had a trust and some of the things in his estate structured the right way to make it easy on you guys. My dad did not. Luckily, me and my brother are pretty amicable. Didn't really have much problem when he passed away. And a lot of his accounts did have beneficiaries and stuff on it. Most of it was my stepmom, which is not really my stepmom. They didn't ever get married, but she deserved it for putting up with him. So I was happy with the way that things worked out. And again, I've been really blessed in my life. So when the money shows up and people die, you get to see the real colors. And if you have a trust in place, that those assets are going to be distributed the right way, and you're not going to have to go through probate and all of the costs that go along with that, and the legal battles and the infighting between everybody that thinks they deserve this or that, or why wasn't this left to them in the will or whatever else. It's going to go to who it's supposed to go to in a trust. So we set up living trusts for people for $400. I wish so much that my dad had that opportunity. I think he paid a couple $1,000. He tried to set it up online himself. He never moved the assets into the trust. It was in his documentation next to his will. I was the executor on the estate. And again, I've seen people go through much worse than what I had, and I hope you're not having to deal with that. But if you are listening to this, nobody likes to deal with their mortality and their death, but these are things that are real in life. And if you can set things up for your family to make sure it's that much easier on them when you do pass, again, as a man, I feel obligated to do that. So hopefully that's the case for you. And again, keep you in my prayers and appreciate you being part of the community. We got Victor. He says, Mastermind member, I ran into your content when I was needing some XRP hopium. Does Japan not launching their stablecoin till 2026 affect the reverse carry trade unfolding? Thank you for all that you do for the XRP community. I don't think so. Again, the more liquidity on chain is great as long as that's being transacted and exchanged. The volume over these networks are really what matters. At the end of the day, it's not tokenization of assets or value on chain. It's that value moving for XRP in particular. So not overly concerned about that. They could expedite that if they wanted to. They're already in trials. So if something were a catalyst to move that along a little faster, that would be just fine. I think they could get it to market very quickly if they needed to. But in the chance that it does take till 2026, I'm still confident in the reverse carry trade playing out this year. There's just too many macroeconomic events that point to that reality. We've got work hard, play harder, excuse me. They say, how can XRP go up by the end of the year with just ETFs without the reverse carry trade? Just volume, supply shock, right? So if you got 15 or 16 spot ETFs and all of those people are rushing to buy XRP at one time, there's going to be FOMO and you will see price appreciation on the asset. It's not going to be as substantial as if, you know, it is needed to settle back into the stock market because the first carry trade unwinded, or unwound. Unwound is the correct word there. So, I mean, there's a bunch of different catalysts that all compound on each other. You know, I'm not going to win my bet with scams if it's just the ETFs. It has to be all of these other events that culminate to a high 3-digit or 4-digit XRP. So, and I've mentioned that, you know, I'm aggressive in my timeline. I think that this could play out this year, and that's why I made that bet publicly. But again, it is predicated on all of these catalysts unfolding in a domino effect, like I've talked about. Chris, he says, will XRM do what XRP do? How will XRM do when XRP takes off? No clue. I don't even know what XRM is. Let's give it a Google. XRM crypto. Arium and confusingly Monero. Monero is XMR, but I don't know what XRM is. It's now defunct. Arium. I've not ever heard of this token. It's got 1 billion supply. There's no trading on it yet. I have no idea. If you're talking about XMR, Monero, I think Monero is cool. I do think it has a backdoor for the Fed or whoever else needs to get into it at this point, though. Wayne, we've already been through this question. It always kicks me up in the chat here. So I'm going to go down to the bottom of the chat, and we'll work our way back up. We got Pwin. He says, thanks, Jake. Been watching for several years. What happens on stolen cryptocurrency front? Lost a lot of on a DeFi scam. Have to rebuild. I'm sorry to hear that, man. This isn't going to make you feel better, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. I had a gentleman that I met through a group, another mastermind, that had a lot of XRP. I'll just say that. A lot of XRP. And for me to say a lot of XRP, like a really healthy bag of XRP. I see a lot of bags of XRP. This was a healthy bag of XRP. He lost it all 2 months ago. He was in an arbitrage trading algorithm that was aggregating 70% per month, compounding his XRP. And the people that he partnered with ran off with all of it. And when he told me about it, I was like, that's great. Let's talk about it. He showed me what he had going on, and he was dealing with some international people. And I was like, you know, this looks awesome, but I don't think it's for us. There's just a little more risk here that I'm comfortable with. And then sure enough, he ended up losing it. So I don't want to talk bad about anybody else. There's a lot of other people out there working on really cool stuff. They're not doing it here in the US for a reason. We have so much oversight for what we do at Digital Wealth Partners. We are an SEC regulated financial institution. There's audits, there's jail time if we do anything bad. Like we cannot mess up. And there's full recourse for anybody that's partnered with us, and tons of disclosures. We have ADVs, everybody's registered. Nobody else is operating in the US providing returns on your XRP like we are. And there's a reason for that, right? The regulations in other jurisdictions are looser. I actually, you know, the other day, I've done a couple transactions, not anything with crypto, with people offshore, and I have been burnt every time. So my new rule is I'm not doing business with people offshore unless I control the entity that stuff's invested through. Looking at Reg S and some other stuff right now, but as far as like business deals, I think I've been burned enough times that I've just learned my lesson that I'm not going to participate with stuff that's offshore. And I knew that with crypto. Like, I've never done that with crypto, and I've also never risked my XRP. Um, I'm invested in the stuff that we have, but outside of that, like, and I have oversight and purview and control, and like know that it's good, and that's the reason I feel comfortable with it. But yeah, I hate to hear that, man. I'm sorry that you lost that in a DeFi deal. And it's hard to operate here in the U.S. They make it very cumbersome. We've got securities laws we got to deal with. There's a ton of red tape and regulation and compliance that we have to deal with, and we're doing it. I would like it to be a lot smoother and streamlined. We do capital calls for our fund on a monthly basis, and you come in and out, every 30 days if you want to. It's not anywhere near as liquid as DeFi, but it is structured and done the right way. So hate that for you. Wish you the best. Be praying for you to be able to, aggregate your XRP bag back. And, I don't want to say hope other people learn from your mistakes, but any mistakes that I make that I talk about publicly, I want other people to be able to look at that and go, I'm not going to do that, and make sure that they don't. So we got 19 trades. Thank you for the super chat. They say, I'm from Thailand. Can I set up an LLC with DWP from here after the price goes up? And just for fun, where do you think XRP could go in 20 years? A long time on XRP, my man. So we'll tackle the first one first. Thailand is actually not a bad jurisdiction for crypto. There's a lot of people that I know that have moved here from the US to Thailand. People from the US are treated very well in Thailand. Little looser on the regulations over there, but they do have defined rules for crypto. I would look at like Singapore if you're going to structure something. I don't know where you plan to move post price appreciation. It's very cheap to live there in Thailand. It's very beautiful in some of the parts in Thailand. So if you plan to just stay there, you might just structure something there in Thailand or Singapore would probably be what I would look at. Anytime you're tying yourself to the U.S. through any type of nexus, you just need to be aware of the double tax treaties that you have with your jurisdiction, and the tax implications and what that's going to look like over the long term. So I know it sounds sexy, and I probably make it sound really good. It is for U.S. citizens and sometimes other jurisdictions also, but it needs to be thought through, right? So if you plan to move here to the U.S., sure, that makes sense. But if you're going to stay there in Southeast Asia, I would probably look to like Singapore or one of those jurisdictions. And then when it comes to the XRP price over the long term, 20 years from now, so what is that? We're 2025, so we're looking at 2045. Well, we're on Mars at that point. We probably have multiple metaverses. I know this sounds like some sci-fi crazy stuff, so just bear with me. I'm trying to live in the future for a second. We probably have a global decentralized AI that manages the majority of our governments at that point. You definitely have the derivatives market tokenized, and basically all other assets at that point have been tokenized as well. So, there's been one tweet by David Schwartz that talks about $1 million XRP. I think within a 20-year time frame, it's quite reasonable to think that XRP could be $1 million or maybe more. I know that sounds delusional and crazy. And here's what I will say, though, and this is actually something that I've come to realize about myself and most other people. People tend to overestimate what can be done in a year and significantly underestimate what can be done in a decade. So people make very, and I do the same thing. I actually always try to take my 10-year goal and move it to a 12-month goal and figure out if I had to get it done in the next 12 months, like what would actually need to happen for me to do that. And then that puts some constraints around things, and you tend to have epiphanies when you put constraints and compress time like that. So it's a good exercise, but a lot of the time it still doesn't happen. Things take time. You can't get 9 women pregnant and have a baby in a month. Just doesn't work that way. It's still going to be 9 months before you have a baby. So some things do just take time. So 20 years from now, I feel fairly confident in saying that XRP is $1 million at that point. Rob, what's up? He says, hey, Jake, no question. Just thank you. Looking forward to the next week and all that goes with that. Rob Toe, dreamer of Daisy. Love that, man. Appreciate you and all the support. All the comments on social media, dude. Thank you so much for all that you do and the support that you have for the community and me and everything that we got going on. I don't say it enough. Again, hard days, not always easy. And to get the kind words from people and the support does really mean a lot. So thank you guys. Yeah, it means a lot more than you guys really know. We got Alfred. He says, appreciate your take. If my XRP asset claims to be the value of X500K, can I then work with your company? If my XRP asset claims to the values, climbs, misspelt that one, darn autocorrect. We will likely raise the minimums, post price appreciation. However, caveat, we will always take care of people in the mastermind. So, we will have some lower thresholds for people there, and we'll have to work out, the compliance stuff on that. My compliance officer is going to wring my neck on that deal, but we always take care of people that take care of us. Okay. Loyalty is a big thing for me. It's one of my principles, core values. And anytime people are early and support us and work with us, you're always going to get the best deal. And we're always going to take care of you. I don't leave people behind. I make sure that people get advantages when they're willing to take risks with us. As an example, we ran a deal back in May that was 20 basis points if you had more than 425,000 XRP. We will never run that deal again. But the people that came in on that, they're going to get a lifetime guaranteed rate at that amount. We also ran a grandfathered special for people that were in the mastermind when we first started the RIA at 40 basis points. It didn't matter how much XRP you had. You had to have at least 50,000. But we, got people in and they're grandfathered at those rates. So people that are in early, people that work with us, people that, are loyal, we always make sure that you're going to get benefit and you're taken care of. So with that said, we will have lower minimums for people that are there in the group versus outside the group. Jayhawk Nation says, Rock Chalk Jayhawk, you are the man, Jake. Appreciate you on the kind words, my dude. I have my wife now sitting with me and got some buddies now watching your Q&A. Thank you so much. Appreciate you, man. Thank you for the kind words and the super chat and the support. Again, none of this is possible without you guys. If we don't have really good clients and people in the community and people that support the channel and want, what we're doing, it doesn't matter, right? So thank you for that. And I do really appreciate, you telling other people it does make a difference on the channel, and then also for everything else that we're doing as well. Group 1 Gavin, he says, what's up? My wife and I are watching The Big Short. Watched The Big Short last night, and I believe they will make a movie documentary on you one day. All the right reasons. Thank you for that, man. Michael Burry, I don't say he's one of my heroes, but I take a lot of lessons from him. The amount of conviction that he had through that whole process, and to be wrong for as long as he was and still hold strong on his conviction, and then to have it play out and benefit him the way that it did. I take a lot from that. It's not like, it's easy every single day. I get up here and I talk about these high prices and what I see. And there's a lot of people that do not like it. There's a lot of people that tell me I'm crazy, that I'm going to be wrong, that all these people are going to get burned and it's your fault and life's about taking a risk, man. If you see something that other people don't, it's only delusional till it works. And Michael Burry looked completely delusional to most of his investors. Tons of people wanted to pull their money out of the fund, and they ended up making billions of dollars because he was right. and I'm very hopeful, to your point, that we are in a similar category and boat, and a lot of people make a lot of money and get well taken care of because of stuff that we're putting together for them. So thank you. I'm actually going to be in a movie tomorrow. We're shooting something here in Dallas that'll air late this year. So it's definitely not about me. I just happen to be in the production, which is cool. Textured Puma with the chat. They say, is there any concern that if Ripple becomes a bank, other banks won't use their new competitors' software? I think that they're just going to force their hand. I think that's the whole deal. I think they were like, okay, like you guys use it. And they were like, no, we want to, but the regulation and this, that, and the other. And I think Ripple was like, you know what, fine. If y'all are going to use it, we are. And if you don't want to, if you want to compete against us, you're going to have to use it. Because here's the deal. R3 is a competitor. It's not the same thing that Ripple provides, but it's pretty close. And so both of them settle through XRP. And XRP is a decentralized, permissionless network that's globally hosted through multiple nodes and validators. It's decentralized. It is a protocol that people use inside their business to settle transactions. So whether Ripple, wins all of these other banks' business or not, there's going to be other competitors that build similar products on top of it and already are. And to be able to compete against Ripple, they're going to have to use this protocol to be able to settle value globally at scale for pennies on the dollar. Less than a penny to send $1 million. So I think it's basically like, hey, put up or shut up. We're going to do it if you guys aren't. And it'll force their hand. You got Cole. He says, one more thing. Can you tell us about your dinner in DC? Sure. Flew to DC. There was a dinner that was put on and hosted by Van Eck. They talked about, their ETPs and other products that they've launched for digital assets. There was a panel there that Cody from the Digital Chamber was on. He was nice enough to invite me. And so I flew out there to meet with all the individuals there. I just keep my mouth shut at a lot of this stuff. Don't say much because I have very contrarian views to most of the other people in the room. Almost everybody else rides Bitcoin like it's the best thing in the world. There's a lot of liquidity there. People have been very successful with it. I don't know that it's going to be the thing moving forward. And so I tend to be a bit contrarian to most other people. And I like being in a room where I am not the smartest person. And most of the time when I go to these events, I tell people what we do, but I give them a high level overview. Sometimes I don't even mention XRP. People actually got kind of a little bit butthurt that I didn't mention XRP on stage at SALT or on, FinTech TV. That's okay. I don't need to say XRP all the time. And I also am very calculated, depending on who I'm speaking with, what I say and what I don't. And you can call that manipulative if you want to. I also just don't like to start unnecessary friction. I see Caitlin Long at these events. I'm cool with Caitlin. I got no problems with Caitlin. She came out and has very strong opinions against XRP. Okay, we don't agree on that. That's cool. Doesn't mean we can't be friends, right? Charles Hoskinson has said a lot of bad things about XRP and has now kind of like circled back around and wants to be friends again. I see Charles at a lot of these events. I'm cool with Charles. Don't have any problems with Charles. He's doing the midnight airdrop. I don't know if you guys saw that, but I think that's going to be pretty cool. So anyway, I don't always divulge everything that I have going on. If people ask and inquire, sure. But I'm, I want to know what they're doing. I want to learn from other people. I want to understand other stuff that I don't know about. And so a lot of times I just am quiet and ask questions. And that's what I did at the dinner in DC. And they'll probably have an event here in Dallas and we'll attend that. And we want to support other people that are building cool products in the ecosystem. I don't view anybody as competition. I just view them as potential partners in cooperation or co-opetition. So there's other family offices. There's 2 other ones that I know of that are SEC registered that do different things. One of them is very focused on Bitcoin. Cool with them, no problem. The other one's very focused on DeFi. Cool with them, no problems. We focus on institutional custody and creating new financial products. And so we actually pass people between us depending on, where they fit and who would best provide services for them. So anyway, the DC dinner was great. I did meet 2 people there. You never know who you're going to meet. I just try to put myself in really cool rooms with really cool people and get to know other people. And if there's value that I can provide and they can provide, maybe there's some synergy on how we can work together. One of the gentlemen that I met there at this event used to manage a very large accounting and tax software for crypto, and no longer is at that firm. But I think there's some synergy there. I need to circle back with him, and then his partner, which he's consulting for a VC firm, also had a very interesting value proposition that I think we'll be able to participate in as prices, go up here. So anyway, always looking for opportunities that I can bring back to people, that we work with. And again, find synergies. And a lot of the time, if I immediately lead with XRP, sometimes I don't get to hear the cool stuff that they're working on because they turn off and don't necessarily like that asset. So that's why I'm calculated in when I say what. We got Go Dogs. They say, hey, Jake, I'm in the mastermind. So much value. Awesome, dude. Thank you so much. He says, hypothetical question. If I had around 10,000 XRP and wanted to live on $15,000 a month, what price would XRP need to be to make that happen? Well, let's do some math, my friend. See if my phone works. We do have the calculator for once, so I don't mess this up. We've got calculator. So we got 10,000 XRP. We'll back into it. So we want $15,000 a month. There we go. And that's 5%. So just standard yield that you're going to be able to get most of the time, pretty low risk, be about 5% on your total AUM, whatever you have. So we're going to multiply that by 20 because that's what that would be. So that's 300,000. And you said per month. So we're actually need to do that about times 12. So we got 15,000 times 12. That's $180,000 a year. And we're going to multiply that by 20. So that's 3.6 million. And then we're going to divide that by 10,000 XRP. So XRP would need to be a price of $360 each in order for you to get that at a very low risk or low risk return to be able to generate that. So that's what you're looking for. Looking for about a $360 XRP, $500 XRP gets you more than enough. And that's where, you can start living on that pretty passively. If that's your, freedom number. Any advice for people in Canada? Leave. No, I'm just kidding. Actually had at the dinner talked to a gentleman from Canada, and actually talked to another gentleman from Canada today that helped with consensus and with collision. Very sharp. We're going to put on a much larger event next year, and so we're trying to glean some insights from him. So Canada is interesting. There's some benefits to living in Canada and a lot of drawbacks. Aaron Grinhoss is our go-to up there. You can email him at aaron@grinhosslaw.ca. If you're like, I don't know how to spell that, just email us at info@digitalfamilyoffice.io and we'll share that information with you, get you connected with Aaron, and he can consult with you. So he'll tell you if you want to establish something there in Canada, or if you want to set something up in, Caymans or Bermuda, offshore somewhere, he can help you establish that. Works with a lot of high net worth individuals that made a lot of money in crypto for Bitcoin, ETH, and now also for XRP. Take a couple more super chats, then we'll wrap it up for tonight. And again, apologize, jumping on here late, but we did make it happen. We got this gentleman says, hello, Jake. What are the signs we can look for to tell when we are at the top of the altcoin season? Would like to secure some earnings. First time for me. It's great, dude. Good questions. Like I've said before, I think this cycle is going to be different. However, when everybody is piling in and everybody thinks it's going to the moon, it's probably time to get out. When your shoe shine boy is giving you stock tips, time to sell your stocks in the market. There will be a rotation out of Bitcoin. Bitcoin dominance will fall. Normally the alt season lasts somewhere between 30 and 45 days. It's a very short-lived thing. You see exponential moves to the upside. You will go to dinner. You'll look at your portfolio before you go. You'll look at your portfolio when you come out, and you could be up $100,000 or $1 million. It's the wildest thing that you'll ever live through, and it will be very difficult to sell. I can tell you from experience, because you're going to think, oh, it's going to keep going. Blockchain Backer does a good job of drawing fib retracements on stuff. Sometimes he's off. Doge kept going way past the top fib on that deal. I think XRP could go way past his top fib on this deal. Again, that's supply and demand dynamics. I would look at stuff on a logarithmic chart. I think that's more accurate. It's always good to scale out of the market also. So whatever it is for you and your family, if you're looking to secure profits, be aware of the tax implications that you're going to have. Set that aside. Hopefully those long-term capital gains at 20%. Hopefully you have it in LLC. So, spend some of that money on certain things. You're going to be able to write some of those off. You're going to be able to pay yourself a salary out of that, and then take, distributions on a monthly or quarterly cadence, which is taxed at a much lower much lower rate than what W-2 income is going to be. But you get a lot of benefits from the LLC. So I'd say structure it that way. And then figure out, just back into numbers. One good example I can give you is Mando. If you guys don't follow Mando, would recommend, especially if you like altcoins. He's done really well. Met him in Dubai 2 years ago. He bought Solana at the bottom, dumped everything he had into it. And then he wrote it back up, and he was like, I'm going to buy 2 condos. When it gets to $35, I'm going to pull out like 30%, buy those 2 condos. When it gets to 100, I'm going to pull out another 3x from there. I'm going to pull out another 30% of my investment and buy 4 condos. And all of those are cash flow for me here in Dubai, and the rest of it I'm going to let ride. So I would back into it that way. I would just say, hey, look, like, what am I trying to accomplish with this? What assets am I going to buy with my profits to be able to offset tax implications? If you buy real estate, you can use cost seg on it. You get 100% cost seg on real estate now, which is huge. You can pull a ton of that depreciation forward, especially in opportunity zones. Like there's a lot of stuff in opportunity zones right now. On the real estate front. So I'm going to be looking at that. I can tell you that, but I don't plan on selling. I plan on borrowing against it because I think things are going to work out a little bit different this time than they have in the past. So up to you, but that's what I would look at. I would be like, okay, what am I going to buy that's going to cash flow? How much do I need? What prices does that need to be? And then that's where I would hit sell orders on stuff, which you're not going to get that from anybody else, my man. Everybody else is going to tell you to pick arbitrary numbers and sell 10% of your bag here and 30% here, and they're not going to tell you what to do with it, and you're going to be saddled with taxes. But I would back into it. I would figure out what you're going to do with that money, how much that stuff costs, how it's going to generate cash flow and create depreciation for you, and then figure out your price points based on that. Chris says, bro, I recently just started watching your videos. I saw you first on Good Morning Crypto, and now I'm hooked on your content. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. I don't know. So for some reason, people like to listen to what I have to say. I try to find people that are much smarter than me and listen to them, and then glean the nuggets and share those with you, and use that perspective to share my thoughts on the market. And again, probably a good time to interject. All this is, uh, educational and entertainment. It's not financial. Um, it is financial information, but it's not financial advice. You should always seek a financial advisor before making any financial decisions. You can reach out to Digital Ascension Group and Digital Wealth Partners if you need a financial advisor for your crypto. And you guys can schedule. I want to mention this too. So even if you can't work with us to custody your assets, but you want somebody to help you put a game plan together on how to make an exit strategy or whatever else, you can still book a consult with Digital Wealth Partners, and they will help you do that. I think it's like $300, and you will get an advisor. They will sit down with you, and they will help you put together an exit strategy, no matter how many assets you have. So if you want that, you can absolutely still schedule a call, even if you don't have enough for institutional custody yet. We're happy to provide that for people, because I know that's a huge need in the market. So just go to digitalwealthpartners.net and you can book a consult with one of our advisors over there. Textured Puma says, is there a way to avoid cap gains on assets swapped within my LLC? I didn't take profits, just swapped. Why is that taxed? It's maddening. I'm with you, dude. I think there should be like a 1031 exchange between cryptos, but that doesn't exist yet. These are all capital assets, and any transaction where you buy and sell is a taxable event. Inside the LLC, if you use those profits to do other things that are related to business activities, you can at least offset that income. So if you wanted to go buy a vehicle or a nice big truck that's over 6,000 pounds to go drive around to crypto events, or and this is the other reason we set it up as a holding company that manages alternative investments and not just crypto, is because you might want to go look at real estate properties. You might want to go meet people for coffee to discuss business transactions, or syndicating another deal, or investing in private equity or private credit. You need a vehicle to be able to get around to those places and talk to those people and do those transactions. So under Section 179 of the tax code, if it's over 6,000 pounds, it's considered heavy equipment. Luxury SUVs are no longer part of that. You have to do some specific things for those. But if it's a big truck, you're good to go. And then you can put down 20%, write off 100% of the sticker price. So if you brought, a nice F-250 Ford Platinum, $100,000, you could write off and you put 20 grand down. We got DNKY. They say, hoping your family situation resolves quickly. It will not, but I really do appreciate that. Thoughts on upcoming rate reduction? Buy the rumor, sell the news, or do you think it would be a kickoff the reverse carry trade? I think it will be both. I think we're going to have a big move in markets up as we get close to the FOMC. I think people will anticipate the rate reduction, and it'll be, they'll come out and say it's going to be more than 50 basis points, and we're going to get euphoria in the market. And then when they actually do it, I think it's going to be like big move to the downside. So I do think it'll be buy the rumor, sell the news. Living Legacy has been nice enough to put this on here. If you do want to join the mastermind, we would love to have you there. Again, the level of sophistication and qualifications that people are going to have post price appreciation to get into the mastermind are going to be much more substantial and highly criticized. We're going to lock it down for 30 days after a $10 XRP. So if you want to get in now and lock in your spot, we'll probably have net worth requirements. There's going to be a lot of things on the other side of price appreciation to help mitigate, bad actors wanting to come into the mastermind. So if you want to get in now and lock in your spot and make sure that you're in there, it's just $2. If you use the code BeyondBroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO gets you your spot locked in before price appreciation. We're going to take 2 more super chats, then we're going to wrap it up tonight. We got LT. He says, hey, Jake, can you give us a realistic expectation on what rates of return would get back to custody or XRP, and what your monthly fees are? I sure can. That's a great question. So we're working on yield products right now. I do think those are also weeks, not months away. And in that circumstance, it'll be somewhere between 3 and 4% on your XRP, just sat there in the account. It likely will have a lockup period. You will be fine with the counterparty that we're working with to be able to generate that. I guarantee you will be very happy with the counterparty that we're using to generate that. And that'll be risk free, just to park it. Our fees are on AUM, so that's assets under management for people that don't know the acronym. And I'm not being facetious or mean about that. I'm just literally providing that for people because some people have never heard that before. So if you had 5 million with us, anything less than 5 million is 2% per year. We are going to run another special in the near future that I can't disclose what it is yet because we're still finalizing some things, but we're going to have a webinar on September 22nd. And if you're accredited, we would love to have you at that webinar and you guys will get the details on it. But we're going to run another special. So these rates will be a little bit different. But right now and in perpetuity, our ADVs state 2% for anything less than 5 million. If you have over 5 million to 10 million, we go to 50 basis points, which is 1/2 of 1%. And then anything over 10 million drops to 40 basis points or 40% of 1%. So if you have $10 million with us, it's $40,000 on the year is what we take in the AUM fee. And we do not make another dime until we generate you at least 8% on your total portfolio. So if you parked it all in that XRP deal, the yield that earns 4%, that's all you're going to pay. It's 40 basis points. So if you make the 4%, you're going to end up with roughly 3.5% on your money every single year, risk-free. Now, if you want to participate in some of the other products and solutions that we have that are a little bit higher risk, they're not high risk at all. They're very low risk in comparison to everything else on the market today for yield for XRP or returns for XRP. We're targeting somewhere between 6 and 20% on the other stuff. And those are through market neutral strategies. We're able to put the XRP up in our hedge fund. It's contributed as a capital asset. It's returned to you in kind. There's no taxable event for participating in this because of the way we structured it. And we're able to generate, again, quarterly returns for you that fluctuates. So it's not like a standardized yield and you know exactly how much you're going to get. It just depends on the fund's performance over the quarter. So the first quarter, we were down a little bit in the growth fund. This quarter, we're up like close to 3% in the growth fund. The first quarter on the income fund, we were a little less than 1% is what we returned to people. This quarter, also doing very well, somewhere around 3% so far on the quarter. So, come October, we will pay out our second round of distributions on both of those to all the LPs there at Digital Wealth Partners. Many people have already paid for their entire year's worth of fees off of the first fund's distribution because they locked it in at the 20 basis point deal that we ran. So, again, I don't know what the exact rate's going to be on this other promotion. It will be a certain amount of XRP that we require people have and bring over in order to get the benefit on the fee. But we will be running another one. So with that, again, those are the interest rates the rates of return that we're looking to generate for people are targeting, the yield product that's coming, and the current fee structure that we have over there. And then the last one here, we've got prayers to your family. Thank you, man. Positive vibes your way. I joined late. Can you please go over the projections for 2025 and 2026? I'm assuming you're talking about XRP, but I'll talk about the whole market. So XRP in particular, if we do see the domino theory play out, like I've been talking about for 18 months now, it's been 18 months. It's almost 18 months to the day that I put that video out. Easily 3 digits, probably 4 digits by the end of the year. Again, that's predicated on all of these catalysts culminating into the perfect storm for that to happen. If we just get ETFs and some of the other stuff, $10 to $13, easily done. Maybe 20, 25 bucks on XRP this year. 2026, I think you're absolutely going to see the 4 digits. I don't see any circumstance where it's not going to happen in that period of time. And that's kind of crazy to say, and I probably should hedge on that. And again, say not financial advice. But just with all of the macroeconomics and everything that's in place, I'm at a 99.999% on Polymarket for the domino theory playing out by the end of 2026. Okay. So there's that. And I think 2026 is going to be the year of the tokenization of stocks. I think it's going to be the tokenization of other financial products. I think 2026 is going to be the year that like crypto exploded. 2025 has been the year of the stablecoin and payments. I think 2026 will be tokenization of real world assets. I think that's what we're going to see in 2026. And I think you're going to see huge volumes, whole markets engulfed by this asset class. I don't think people really comprehend the growth that's going to happen over the next 18 months here. So those are, it sound like you want the XRP prediction, but that's that. And then I think for the whole market, I think there's going to be other. We just got another ETF for HBAR today. I think Grayscale filed their S1 for their ETF on HBAR. Super bullish on HBAR in 2025 and 2026. That's probably my number two. If I had to pick a number two, that's it. So if I missed your super chat, if I didn't get you for some reason, if you want to join the mastermind and send me a message, I will try to get to those there. I'm a little late in answering questions and stuff there, just because other stuff that I've had going on. So I will try to get back to people on that. But if I missed your super chat, would love to get you over there into the mastermind. You can DM me. I will say this. I will not DM you. If you join the mastermind and it looks like I DM'd you, it is a scam. Block, report. It is not me. Okay. We're on Discord. I can't help Discord. I don't own Discord, so I can't remove bad actors. But I'm telling you, if you message me, that's the only time that you're going to get me. I will not message you first. So if anybody looks like me or is acting like me, it is a scam. If anybody messages you about Web3 Official, it is a scam. Do not send your stuff over there. I will never ask you for your XRP. Ever. Ever, ever. I don't work at Digital Wealth Partners. I don't help them transfer XRP into the accounts. I can barely see the accounts over there at Digital Wealth Partners. Okay? It's not me. I'm never going to ask you for your XRP. So with that, again, would love to have you in the mastermind. All you got to do is go to beyondbroke.com, use the code right up here, beyondbroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO gets you your first month for $2 there in the group. You can ask me anything, but if you DM me, I will answer. It might take me a little bit to get back to you. We have lots of stuff going on there. If you need help setting up your LLC, again, you can go to digitalfamilyoffice.io and put in the code 50OFF, 50OFF, DAG LLC. Get you everything end to end that you need to be able to manage your digital assets effectively, post price appreciation, set yourself up for success. And then, if you want additional services, obviously email us at info@digitalfamilyoffice.io and we can share all those professionals with you, CPAs, accountants, tax attorneys, estate planners, whatever you need. And then last but not least, if you do want to work with, Anchorage institutional custody, get access to returns on your XRP. We're doing that today. You need at least 100,000 XRP or at least $500,000 in total portfolio value. But you can go to digitalwealthpartners.net and our team would love to meet with you. Even if you don't have that and you want just financial advice on your crypto, we can do that also. Just schedule a consult there on the same website. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Thank you again for taking time out of your Tuesday night to hang out with me. We'll be back again on Thursday this week. I'm going to be on the live instead of the Wednesday. We got a meeting tomorrow. That's a dinner here in Dallas after the movie shooting deal that we're doing. So with that, love you guys. Appreciate you taking time out. Blessed and grateful for everyone here and in the mastermind. I hope you have a wonderful week and we'll see you guys on the next one.